Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite subjects today. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn, and we're going to have so much fun with my guest today. So please join me in welcoming Lisa Rangel to our program today. Welcome, Lisa. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm great, Deb. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this.
Perfect. We're going to have so much fun on this.
Great.
And we do focus on LinkedIn in the month of April, but it's so important that I always like to have guests throughout the year talking about it. And, we're going to toss in some other things about job search and things like that. But I think it's just something that, to me, LinkedIn is absolutely positively one of the most critical parts of someone's professional career. And, we want to make sure that we're doing it right. So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. So Lisa Rangel is the founder and CEO of ChameleonResumes.com, the premier executive resume writing and job landing consulting firm, and the JobLandingAcademy.com, the top-tier resource career store with client success in 88 plus countries. Lisa's mission in life is to continue to make the world a happier place with one fulfilling, well-paying job change of a time, using her 4-step Meta job landing system. She is a graduate of Cornell University and the first in her family to graduate from college. She is a trusted senior level job landing expert with an email subscriber list of, holy cow, 87,000 members, and who has been featured or published over 200 times in media outlets, including those little ones called Fortune, Forbes, Newsweek, Fast Company, Business Insider, LinkedIn, BBC, Investors Business Daily, Crain's New York, Chicago Tribune, E-Finance Careers, Yahoo, Monster, U.S. News and World Report, Good Morning America, and Fox Business News. Holy schmoly, are there any that you missed?
There's a few.
And we're aiming for them, right?
Always got goals, exactly.
Yep. So very cool, very cool. Well, oh my gosh, like I said, just incredibly amazing. And I love hearing about this. And so, clearly we're going to have lots of great content for folks. But I always like knowing how my guests got to where they are today. So tell us a little bit about how you discovered that this is your passion in life.
It's always a fun story and a great question, and I appreciate that. And I was a recruiter prior to starting Chameleon for 13 years,
right,
and a search firm recruiter. And search firm recruiters are always told we shouldn't work on resumes because we're supposed to spend most of our time, if not all of our time, finding candidates to place in clients' open roles because we're commissioned, and that's how we make money. And when we're writing resumes, we're not making money. And, but I was always really good at it without having to spend a lot of time on it, and it helped people. And, selfishly, if I had a qualified candidate and the resume looked right, my client company would respond with wanting to see them. So I did learn quickly that, if the qualified candidate's credentials were showcased in the right way, I was more likely to get an interview from that client company who's going to pay me. So, which would lead to hopefully a placement. So when I found myself in 2009, also laid off, last downturn that we were all finding ourselves in, I was a little burnout on recruiting, and I was the sole breadwinner of our family. My husband was a stay-at-home dad for 7 years. But it's really not a great mental place to be mentally burned out on something
Right.
you're really good at and you make a lot of money at, and it's the sole income of your family. But but in 2009, a lot of people also needed resumes. So I just started writing them, and I started charging for them instead of doing them for free when I was a recruiter. And I just was like, I think I can make a go with this. And I did some contract recruiting work that 2009, 2010 period, while I was deciding whether I was going to write resumes for a living or go back into recruiting, and it took off. So that's what I did. And so I realized I can make a living at writing resumes, and that's what I did. And that's how
I love it.
And it's been, since 2009.
Well, and I know you focus more on senior level type of positions. And, one of the things that I hear people say all the time is, I'm a senior level person.
Right.
I don't need a resume or a good LinkedIn profile because it's all about who I know. So what do you tell those people?
I tell them they're, in many cases, exactly right. In some ways, it is about the networking. There are people who get hired without a resume or their profile isn't updated. But it's the kind of thing that when you need it,
you better have it.
You better have it. And more and more, what's happening, I see over and over again, a lot of our client base is in that, say, 45 to 65-year-old like age range. I mean, we've worked with people younger, we've worked with people older, but it's a general consensus age range at a senior level, and they've been promoted, recruited, or sought after their entire career. They never really needed to do even a proactive job search. And then at a senior level where there's fewer positions, just simply due to economics, right? There's fewer positions at the top, there's more positions in the middle, and even more at the bottom, right? In every organization. Now they find themselves, due to an M&A and they're on the wrong side of the merger acquisition, or all of a sudden their boss gets let go. Even if they're the C-level, at the CEO gets changed.
Yeah, a lot of times new ones want to bring in their own team.
Exactly. It could be just, it's so many reasons, right? That can change. And now they find themselves right at the point where they feel like they've arrived and they're at the peak of everyone should be coming to them. Now they're expensive. They're, discerning. They don't want to work 80 hours a week anymore.
They're a little more mature. Let's be honest about that.
We work smarter versus harder. At a point where there's now fewer positions at the top, and now they actually have to compete when maybe in the past their reputation preceded them. And now it's not necessarily preceding them in certain scenarios. And they have to actually proactively do a search. And now their network's not developed, their the marketing collateral is not developed, and now there's like scrambling. So that's a very common situation that I really promote trying to get people to be prepared for, so it doesn't happen to them.
Right.
And so that's a lot of what we do. And when someone says, I don't need it, I say, yeah, a lot of people don't coming up through the ranks. But then when you want to level up and you need to compete with people who have also been promoted, recruited, and sought after your entire career for fewer positions at the top, you better be ready to compete and compete in a different way than you did when you came into the world, 10, 15, 30 years ago. So you can't compete the way you did when you first started or at the mid-level of your career the same way you should be competing at the top.
Right. And you've got a great book. It's called The Job Landing Mindset: How to Shift Your Mindset to Land Your Dream Job. And as I was reading it, I take notes, and I wrote down and then put big stars, arrows, to about this. And it's exactly what you said. Be prepared. Because we never know. And I think, if anything, the last 2.5 years have shown us that things change, and things change very, very quickly.
Yes.
Sometimes companies have the ability to be able to kind of take things a little bit more slowly, find the right candidate, all of those, but not always. They need somebody, and they need somebody now, and they don't need somebody that says, well, gee, I don't have a resume, or I don't have, a LinkedIn profile or any of that, because they thought their job was safe.
Right.
You know, and or maybe they were a business owner and they thought their company was safe, and
Safe.
oops, gee, maybe it's not. You know, and so it
It can
is
also
about
be
being prepared.
positive. I don't
Right.
mean to interrupt you, but it can also be positive. I mean, I quite literally had a prospective client who then turned around within 24 hours and hired us call me 2 days ago, and like a job paying literally 3 times more than what they currently
Found
make,
him.
more expansive role, all of a sudden found her, and she was like, I'm not ready.
Oh,
my
yeah.
resume needs to grow up is literally the phrase she used.
Yep.
And she is gainfully employed, and she is very happy, and she doesn't even really want to move. But it's just such an amazing opportunity that, like, how is she not? And so, you know, even if this position doesn't work out for her, she just realized her documents need to grow up, right? Because she hasn't been doing it yet. So these are just these are tools in a toolbox. You know, I hate to sometimes use that very common analogy, but it's the kind of thing that, you know, I mean, get prepared isn't a really sexy marketing message, right? Like, a marketing consultant I hire, they're like, you have to go for the fear, you have to get where their pain point is. And right, obviously that's the key. But, you know, selling insurance isn't sexy either, but it's a business, right? I'd much rather help someone be prepared than, you know, get them when they're down, right? And look, we deal with a lot of people who come to us reactively. It happens to them. Now they know they need help and they're scrambling and they're behind the 8 ball and all those things. But if I can get one person to do it a little bit proactively, I feel like my job is done.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because I actually benefited from that. And that's why it's such a passionate thing for me. Can I share the story with you, if that's...
Oh, yes.
So I have a podcast that I did for a year that's still out there. I did it every week for a year. It's called the Pretend You're Fired Today podcast. And every week I basically did like a 15-minute lesson of how to be prepared if you're fired today, right? So that, you know, but the story behind it is when I worked for a company for 9.5 years, and that I loved, and they loved me, and it was a great run. But I had a coworker, I called her my work wife, you know, she was also maybe with the company a little bit longer than me, like maybe 10 years. But one day she was let go, despite being a great producer. You know, she just didn't get along with management as well. You know, management changed, things happen, right? And she was having a lot more, you know, friction. And one day she was let go, and it literally took her out from under her knees. Like, she wasn't expecting it. Right. The whole thing. I didn't hear from her for 2 months. And then she called me and she said to me, you need to pretend you're fired today, and don't think this can't happen to you, and write a list of everything you would do, and then start doing it working. You know, get your resume done, your profile done. And this was in like 2007-ish. And I had joined LinkedIn the year before, but didn't really do much with it other than look for candidates.
We cut and pasted our resume there, right?
Exactly, right? Like, and so I got serious, and I did a resume, and I did the profile. And she said, you know, we always sat at our desk and worked through lunch and ate lunch at our desk, and don't do that anymore, go meet people. And I did all that, still kind of thinking it wasn't going to happen to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't really argue with management that much. I'll be fine. You know, I'm the nice, I'll make it work girl. You know, it'll be fine. Well, then fast forward 3 months from that period that she got laid off, or let go. My boss, who was the nicest guy on the planet, with the company for 17 years, one of the original like company people, he was let go.
Oh, and you're thinking,
I was like, and everybody loves him, and he's not fighting with anybody. Like, clearly it can happen to anybody. So then I started taking my friend's advice from 3 months prior, or a month prior, you know, when she called me back 2 months after getting let go. I started applying all that information, and I was having meetings, I was having exploratory conversations, and I was reaching out to people I hadn't talked to in a while, and former coworkers, and I do all the things that I promote for people to do now. Fast forward 8 months, the new boss I had, who I did know, he's somebody that was overseeing a different area of the company, and so I knew of him, but I never reported to him. But he was my new boss when my boss got let go. He sat me down at the Rainbow Room in New York City. And we had nice lunch, and he told me they were reorganizing the company and they were giving me a different job. A job that totally made sense. If I was in his position, I would have done it. I would have done the same thing. I didn't want that job. But I was the sole income of my family.
And you're like, ugh.
I absolutely would have, it was a lot of traveling. I would have been miserable. But
Oh.
because of the work that I did for the prior 8 months, I knew I had options. I didn't have a job, but I knew I had inroads into places.
Right.
I told him I didn't want the job. And I asked for a package. And long story short, I got the package.
Nice.
I didn't take that job. And I wound up getting another job within a month. That would have never happened if I did not heed my friend's advice.
Right.
I would have taken that job. If I didn't heed her advice or she never told me, I would have taken that job. I would have been
miserable.
I would have been living out of my suitcase. I would have been missing my kids. My kids were in great hands with my husband, but it was, our kids were in great hands with my husband. But, like I would have been miserable.
Right.
So it literally saved my life in my mind because I would have been in just some mental turmoil. Right. So this stuff works. Like this preventative stuff works.
Right.
And so that's why it's like the mission that I live for, to tell people, like, be prepared. And I'd much rather deal with a proactive message of preparedness than the get you when you're scared.
Because then you're going to take, in many cases, you're going to take the first thing that comes along.
Exactly.
Because you have bills to pay.
When people are unhappy and they're not looking through a clear lens, and evaluating a job. And so it just, it gives you options when you're prepared. And that's my mission. So that was a little bit of a long story. I appreciate your latitude there. But
well, and, I think so many of us can relate to that because, we start seeing things shifting. When I was in corporate America, I was the head of corporate communications for the division where I worked.
Right.
And I started having to write termination packages.
It's hard.
And so it's like, okay, that handwriting is on the wall because I knew, who was going, I knew why they were going, and I could see what direction this was coming.
Where the budgets were shrinking.
Yeah, and I was the department manager, the higher salary, all of those various things. And it really was one of those where I was just waiting. I was waiting for that phone call to say, And, and so one of the words that you use, and you use it several times, and I absolutely love it, is options. By being prepared, you're keeping your options open. Doesn't mean you have to accept them or do anything about them, but they're there.
Feeling stuck is where people become miserable. It really is the root of becoming miserable when you're stuck. So I'm just all about having options.
You have to have the job because you have to have the salary, because you have to have the insurance, because you have to have the yada yada yada. And so you just keep going. And I've talked to more than one person who has been in the same thing. They absolutely loved where they were, thought it was the greatest place in the world, but because they had a great LinkedIn profile, headhunters found them. Right. And, they said the vast majority of the time they turned it down. They said, it's always nice to know you're loved, right? But
those
there was one time
keep you abreast of the market too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, okay, well, there's a big turnover in this area, or technology is aiming this way, or, some things like that.
Or it helps you evaluate that what you have is great. So now you're staying out of choice.
And it might give you a little bit of options where you work to, depending on what you do. You're probably not going to go in and give them an ultimatum. I mean, you can, but you might be able to go in and say, hey, I know that in our industry, in our market, in whatever, the salary is this. Would you be able to increase my salary? Or more time off or whatever.
You bring up a very good point. You bring up a very good point. I did a video a few months ago. Time's a little nebulous.
COVID time, I have no idea where we are.
But if you look too comfortable on your LinkedIn profile because you are neglecting it, your employer will think you're not going to be attractive to other people, or they think you'll never leave. But if they see that you look like attractive to other people, you don't have to actively be looking, and you can just simply market your company on your profile.
Oh yeah, or be talking about industry trends.
Exactly.
I mean, all of those various
things.
It's
not about always looking for a job, but you got to create your own brand.
Yep.
Because then the company wants to pay to retain that, as opposed to thinking, oh, they'll never leave.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he'll never leave, she'll never leave. So like when that happens, then the dollars don't go to the person who's probably never going to leave.
Right.
It's unfortunate, right? That's, you would think that they would reward the loyalty, but that doesn't happen.
Not really. No.
You know, and so it's about making sure, one, put your, market your company on your profile.
Right.
And then two, make other employers go, I want them to do that for us. So it makes you attractive. And then it shows that your current employer has to value you, whatever that needs to look like, right? So, but looking too comfortable by neglecting your branding is a thing.
Right.
And it can prevent you, so if you feel like you're being passed over for raises or promotions, or you're not getting the client work you want as an entrepreneur, and you do have a neglected brand, it's just something to consider, right? But, do people get things done without these brands, being developed? Of course. I mean, I'm not one of these people who's like, everybody needs a brand. Like, some people don't need a brand, and it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, but but you could have more proactive, positive opportunity come to you if you have a brand, or it could fix some of the problems you're having if you don't have a brand and should. Right. That's the evaluation everybody needs to make. That's the gut check. To go back to your original question, when people say they don't need it.
Well, and the other thing about being prepared, especially at that senior level, is you have other types of opportunities. Absolutely. We live in Atlanta now, but I'm a University of Colorado graduate, still very involved with them, even out here. And, and we still have our football tickets, and so we're very involved, my husband and I, with the university. And I was asked to serve on one of their big prestigious boards. Right. And I said, y'all understand I'm in Atlanta. And they said, no, that's all right. And of course, the first, and this was not just that you got asked, there was a vetting process.
Absolutely.
And they said, we need your resume. And I went,
Literally.
I'm like, I've owned my business for 20 years. I don't have a resume, but I've got a kick-ass LinkedIn profile. Right. And, and for those of you who don't know this, you can print your resume or your LinkedIn profile as a PDF, or you can forward it. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do.
There's options, exactly.
And so I sent them the PDF of my LinkedIn profile, which was, of course, far more detailed than a resume would ever be. And because we're taught when you have a resume, it's 2 pages, yada, yada, yada. Right. Yeah. I mean, and in LinkedIn, you go into detail. And the response I got back was, well, of course you would have a good LinkedIn profile because we see what you do. Exactly. But they accepted that as my application, and so you never know, especially when you're a senior level.
Always needed. I mean, and I'm the first, a lot of resume writers won't say that, but I'm, it's a tool.
I tell people quite often LinkedIn is your first interview. Yeah, they're looking there before they ever do anything else. These are all
tools that need to just be formulated in some way in the toolbox. Right. And as C-level leaders, or board members or anything, you want to attract talent, right? Right. You need to attract vendors. You need to attract people that you're hiring. Like, clients obviously need to feel like you're, the one that they want to align themselves with. So, as a C-level leader or an entrepreneur, if you're hiring people to work for you, you need to have something they're going to be proud to represent or proud to align themselves with. Or, when people have meetings, what are the first thing they do? They pop your name into Google, they pop your name into LinkedIn, right? Or if
they research
Google, your LinkedIn profile should come up, and it should be not terrible at the minimum, right? Like, it should just be not terrible.
Right.
And
I tell people at least have it current.
Right.
So a current photo, have your most current job listed. I mean, all of those various
at least
things.
do the bare bones, right? So, there's just ways to be. There's a positive that can come from all this. Like, it doesn't always have to be reactive because, your business is failing or you lost your job. Like, and believe me, those are all very good reasons to have it too. But there's so much more opportunity that comes from having it done. I mean, I've had people stumble onto my profile or my content and they're like, I really love what you're saying. Can you, come on my show, or can
Right.
you write this article, or would you join us to help this group, or I want to hire you to write my documents, or so it creates opportunity when it's done well, and you're attracting,
Right.
and you're not always going out for, right? So that's, I think, the key. And so companies and hiring executive leaders want to see that you're going to be able to attract the talent that they want to retain. And so that's part of it. You got to look the part of being somebody wants to work for, and you want high caliber talent to want to work for you. And that's one way of attracting people, because they see that you're progressive. They see that you're contributing to modern marketing techniques, no matter what your discipline is, finance, IT, marketing, HR. You can contribute to show that you're using progressive, outreach, branding, marketing tactics, then you come across as more of a progressive leader, and most people want to work for those that are in the forefront of their business or their industry or their profession. These are all just subliminal ways you attract top level talent.
Right. Well, it's just like if I go to a business's website,
absolutely,
and it's clear it hasn't been updated, my first thought is, are they still even in business?
Right.
And I'm not talking about, having the latest colors.
No.
It's, if you look and it's like, wait a minute, I don't think they've sold that product for several years, or, all of those things.
It's just about being updated, right? Yeah. Like because then there's the other extreme. It's like so over branded that you're like, okay, do they spend all day on LinkedIn and what is it living, right? So you don't want that impression either, unless that's your actual job, is to do branding and that sort of thing. But
yeah, I mean, we're not talking about posting 5 times a day, folks.
No. I mean, like, a working executive, if they post once a week and then message a few people offline a week, like a dozen during the week, they're keeping their network nurtured. They're keeping a message out there of what they stand for and what they promote. And it's just maintained, and then it could be dialed up or dialed down based on what's going on, but it's at least a maintenance. And that's the thing. Like, I don't think people realize it's not Facebook, it's not Instagram, it's not TikTok, it's
kind of like you only go to one networking event a week. You're not now you might be at networking events every day, but
so but it's about going to an event and then talking to people offline. So do that same type of habit, whatever that needs to look like for you for LinkedIn. If it's one post a week and then reaching out to 5 to 10 people a week, that, is great.
Right.
And because if you're reaching out to 5 to 10 people, you're going to have 1 or 2 respond, maybe, on a very modest level. Now you're just talking to 1 or 2 people a week, which is that's how you keep your network nurtured.
Right. And speaking of your network, it needs to always be growing. And one of the things that I love about all these Zoom meetings is that's a big way of how I grow my network. I have not been to an in-person networking event since COVID started. Variety of reasons for that. And I tell people I don't have to put on shoes. Really, but I have 2 big monitors, and so I have my Zoom meeting on one monitor, and on the other one I've got LinkedIn, and I'm going through the people, and as I'm looking, I mean, there are some I'm like, but and I go when it's clear that their profile is not updated. I mean, all of those various things. If I look at their profile and it looks like somebody I really want to get to know, I send them a request to connect. And I always tell people, I don't care if you just talked to somebody 5 minutes ago, still remind them, because, we might not be that memorable. And so I tell them, I just, we just participated on the same webinar that, whatever it was. And I say, and I would love to connect with you. I don't think I've ever been turned down. And I do that also with the speaker. Now, we used to do that, right, when we were going to conferences and things, but it's different now somehow on LinkedIn. I mean, I'll say, oh my God, I loved your presentation that you just gave to C-Suite Network, or whatever it is. And I'll put a little snippet in there. I loved it when you talked about
this.
So that way they know I actually was there and paying attention.
Right.
And it seems to be much more robust. And I don't know if it's that we're just networking differently now or quite what it is, but and we're talking 5-10 minutes, folks. This is not a huge deal.
Yeah. No, and if you do it 2 or 3 times a week, even if you just do it once in certain weeks, it's still one more than you did.
Right.
if you didn't do it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think that's the thing. Like and that's sometimes what I talk about in the book. It's just about focusing on what is working, focusing on what you can do.
Right.
Because there's always a way it won't work. And
Mhm.
there's Lord knows 60 ways you can't do it.
Mhm.
But just focus on the way you can,
Mhm.
focus on the one thing you can do, focus on the one way it could work, and expect that you're not going to win over everybody. That's okay.
And that's okay. They're
You're
probably
literally on
not
a
supposed to be
quest.
somebody you connect with
Yeah.
anyway.
You're on a quest to find the people that will respond.
Mhm.
So don't focus on the people that aren't.
Mhm.
That's what I try to,
Right.
share. It's just because people sometimes are like, oh, they're not going to reject, they're not going to talk to me, they're not going to respond. And believe me, I get that can be overwhelming at times. But one, if you don't reach out and they don't respond, you're in no different a position than if you didn't try at all, right? So there's that. And two, they might actually respond. Right. And then imagine all the good things that'll happen. And, so it's about just trying. It's about, trying in a qualitative way. And it's also about consistency, because if you just consistently do it, you're just exercising that muscle of the outreach, and you're leaving the results up to the universe, and if you're a religious person, you can say God, whatever that looks like.
Fate, whatever.
Yeah, but like you're just putting, all you can control is the output. All you can control is how many times you reach out.
Right.
Right? How many times you email, how many times you dial the phone, how many times you send a direct message on any sort of channel. You can't respond, you can't control the response back, no matter how much we get good at copywriting, right? Or whatever time of day. Like you can try all those different hacks. But the bottom line is you cannot control somebody responding to you. But just focus on what you can control, do it qualitatively and do it consistently. And that's why, honestly, even though I know you normally do LinkedIn during April, it's
year round.
One, I appreciate you accommodating me in June, but two, it is a year round type of thing. Even if it ebbs and flows and you do a lot certain months and little certain months, it is a year round nurturing kind of thing. And it's just about focusing on what you can do and what you can control and doing it best you can in consistent ways possible. And that's really a lot of what.
And don't beat yourself up. I mean, if you set your goal that you're going to go on LinkedIn for 15 minutes every day, and then life happens, okay, when you can get back to 15 minutes a day, go back to, or change it. Maybe I was going to do 15 minutes every morning. That's just not working now. So I'm going to do 15 minutes
hour once a week.
An hour once a week. Adjust.
Like just, or just shoot for an hour a week, and it may take 10 minutes on Monday morning, 10 minutes on Tuesday night, a half hour on Wednesday, and then you don't do it for a week.
Right. Yeah.
So it just like have it be a rolling amount. Like there's just so many ways. Again, just focus on the way it can happen instead of focusing on the ways, you committed and now you failed or you didn't keep it. Like life is a moving target. So just let it flow, but yeah, that I just find the consistency of it being really the key. And, it's funny. I have clients like, well, what if somebody or they do have somebody say, this is ridiculous. Why are you reaching out to me? But I'm like, okay, you just made it very clear that person is not something you should be.
Right. Yeah. So apologize and move on.
And they're not your people. And that's okay. You just found out early on.
Yeah, they're rude.
And so that's it. And so now focus on who is responding and who is nice and who is kind, and be kind to people who reach out to you, and short of the spammers and stuff like that. But like you can also politely decline if somebody reaches out to you, and just again, it's about being kind and just keep moving forward. And you will find that people will not talk to you. You will have mean people. They're just not your people. And you found out early.
And it's the same thing if you walk up to them in a networking event and you can tell they're thinking about something else.
They're not your people.
It's not reflecting on you.
No, you're on a quest for your people.
Right.
You're just on a quest for your people. And some weeks you're going to find them and some weeks you're not. Right. So, and then if there is something adverse, like a layoff or a business turn, where you got to go back, from a business entrepreneur standpoint to an executive role, or you're an executive and you just need to change, you have your well already a little built.
Right.
It's never perfectly built, but it's at least a little built versus not built at all. And that's where you we'll get some traction. And that to me is where job security comes from. It doesn't come from any external source of business or employer. It comes from within, having these toolbox tools, the network, the profile, you know, the resume, the cover letters, the list of what we want, the list of what we don't want. Those, when you have all that a little bit sorted out, that's when you can bounce back into a different role faster, as opposed to it happens. Now you got to build all that stuff and then try to look. That's what elongates the gap, you know? So that's why it's important to just, you know, pretend you're fired today.
And you know, be the Boy Scout, be prepared. You know, and it was funny when I was reading your book, you and I have very similar thoughts on this. You know, we have to be thinking of this as we are the product that we are selling.
Yes.
And, you know, and so you have to put on your marketing hat and you have to put on your salesperson hat. And we all go, ooh, sales. But, you know, it's not ooh, sales. It's promoting yourself. It's, you know, doing all of these things. But you do have to think like a marketer. You know, if someone were to read your profile, what would they think?
Right.
You know, and so that's where you don't get overly salesy. You know, you mentioned spammers real quick. That's the one thing where every once in a while I will snark at somebody's, you know, request to connect with me. And I very rarely do it, but it's usually when I get the one where it's, I can help you with your social media. And I respond or I ignore it. I mean, usually I just ignore it. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But every once in a while I will respond and say, maybe you should go back and read my profile. And, you know, and then the other thing that I also do is, if someone just sends me a request to connect with absolutely no context, I'll go look at their profile. And if it makes no sense at all, or if clearly they're going to start selling me, you know, I love the people who, you know, we're going to make your podcast. Yet no, that's not, you know, I know they're going to try and sell me, so I don't want to deal with it. But if it looks like there might be a match, then I send them in mail. And I do have a paid account, so I have more in mail. Right. But I send them, and you know, it's a cut and paste that I have that says, thank you so much for your request to connect. However, I'm very I have a strategic whatever with developing my network. Tell me how you think that we, you know, tell me how we would benefit from connecting.
Right.
99% of the time I get nothing, which again, yeah, they weren't my people.
Yeah.
And so I don't care, you know, it's like, okay, whatever. Or, you know, it was not a real person. And that's usually what I tell the people who respond.
Right.
Partially, I wanted to make sure you were a real person.
Yeah.
And then we start that conversation, you know, but the ones that drive me the most nuts, I had one today. I was looking at this earlier today, you know, request to connect, and in their request to connect is their sales pitch, right? No, never do that, folks. But his request was, and it started out good. I love your podcast. I think it's great. I love listening to the episodes of it. Who does your editing? And we can edit it better. And I thought, okay, I think I just got smacked. Because I do my editing. You know, of course, I didn't know that. But yeah, and so
that's always a little risky way to come at, because you don't know what, you know.
It's like, no, you know, like we said, you just made fun of somebody's baby.
Right.
And so I hit ignore.
And even if they're right, it's still insulting, right? So
you know,
it's
you wait and you get a little bit into that. Yeah. And his first couple sentences were great. And I was ready to connect with him until it became the sales pitch. And then I was like, ignore. No response. You know, I'm not going to get into a battle of words, anything like that. But, you know, I tell people, think of it like real life. I mean, you know, you're at a networking event, and yes, you exchange business cards, you do your 30-second sales pitch, you know, all of those various things, but it's not buy from me now or else type of things.
I mean, it's a little bit of a not so timely analogy because of COVID. Nobody's hanging out at a bar anymore. And I'm also married, like, you know, over years, so I'm not hanging out at a bar anymore prospecting. But it reminds me of, like, you know, if somebody came up to you at a bar and asked, hey, baby, question is, you know, will you marry me? You'll think they're crazy. So like, it's the same kind of thing. Like, you gotta ease into things.
At least buy me a drink.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's,
Mhm.
but but I find that if you approach LinkedIn, it's a mindset, right? If you approach LinkedIn like with curiosity, with helping,
Mm-hmm.
with adding value,
Mm-hmm.
um, then you're avoiding, everybody wants to avoid that call where they haven't called somebody in like 7 years,
Right.
and now they're only calling because they're looking for a job.
Mm-hmm. They
Right.
need something.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and look, we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't say I haven't
Right.
done that call
Mm-hmm.
before. I've
Oh
done that
yeah.
call before.
Mm-hmm.
We've all done it. But like, if there's just some little way to do things proactively
Mm-hmm.
to maybe avoid
Mm-hmm.
a majority of those calls, all right,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about it, right? Let's do that. Even if it's again one little action, right? So you might reach out to somebody and help them where they're not making that call to you, and now when you need it, they're indebted to you, right? And that's not why you do things, but just karmically, if you're
Right.
helping, right? It's that whole networking, right? Givers, give to get kind of thing, right? All those little networking mantras, and I don't know, it's just more fun, I think. And I say that as an introvert. Like, I am an introvert who plays well with extroverts. It's I find as an introvert, when I make it a qualitative numbers game, I don't get so caught up in my head about, oh, what do I say? What do I do?
Right.
Do I do it? What if they don't like me? Like, if I just go, okay, I gotta go do my 3 things today, then I just do them.
Right.
And then that's it. And if all 3 people didn't like me that day and I get nothing back, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm not paying attention to the results as much as I am paying attention to the commitment to the outbound activity.
Right.
So again, not that I'm not worried about the results, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not the priority. If I do the outbound activity consistently, results will come.
Right.
They may not come in the form I expect them to, they may not, but I can't put my self-worth on the results. I put my self-worth, for lack of a better word, I probably should come up with a better word than that, but I put my sense of accomplishment, that's probably a better word,
right,
based on what I do versus what comes
because
back.
we have no idea
I
what's
can't
going on
control
with
what
them.
somebody else thinks of me that day.
Yeah.
But I can feel good that I sent out 3 things and go, okay, I did my 3 things today.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't check LinkedIn. Maybe they're on vacation. Maybe, and also don't play the maybe game. Why didn't they respond? Maybe no.
No, but here's the other thing that I don't think a lot of people give credence to. We're in this world nowadays, right? Whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever you're in, where we can literally watch somebody's update, read it, scroll through it, right? We see the updates, right? There's people that we see their updates every day, every week. We never interact with them.
Right.
But we literally feel like if we were to actually, I went to a 30-year college reunion 3-4 weeks ago. And people that I've been on Facebook with that I haven't physically talked to in a long time, but I've seen their kids graduate. I've seen.
Right. You saw their life going by.
And it's like, I feel this sense of intimacy, and I don't even say false. It's just weird, right? Because I haven't seen them in 10 years, but like, people see your message. Email is very social media like now. They might see you're reaching out. They might see you in their LinkedIn messaging, portal. They might see you in their inbox. But if they don't reply, they still saw that you tried to reach out. So when you do reach out again, maybe in 3 months, it's not as, oh, I don't know who you are. So people see the incoming messages now.
Right.
And if you try again in a month going, I know you're busy. I know you didn't have time to get back to me last time, just staying on your radar. Thought I'd reach out again. Well, now they saw it again. That now has value. Whereas like 15 years ago, that wasn't a valuable thing.
No. In fact, it got annoying, right?
Right. Or they were pieces of paper messages that got thrown out, or, but now people see it. It sits in an inbox. We're so used to looking at screens and digesting updates that email now can serve as in a social media kind of way. And so by just simply sending it out, you've registered in somebody's brain, most likely. I mean, unless of course it went to spam, but so that's why it's always good to be consistent and then try it more than once, because eventually they're going to go, you know what? I saw your other ones. I haven't had a chance to get back. Thanks for not giving up on me. hey, I'm glad we're talking
Or
now.
you get blocked. And they're like, okay,
And then
there's their
they're not
answer.
your people, right? And they're not your people. But and again, you're not being spam-like, right? But
Right.
but then they may, when they need something, respond to you because you've been there. So it just happens when you're just paying, when you do it in a numbers, metrics kind of way, qualitatively, consistently, it does pay off. And and then it's there for you when you need it.
Right.
It's not as an emotional scramble.
Yeah. Oh my God, I've lost my job or whatever. And the truth of the matter is most of us are lurkers. We see their posts, we might not even click the like button or anything like that. And it's the whole, if the tree falls in the forest and no one is there, people are seeing those, like your reunion. I mean, you might not have seen somebody for 30 years, but you can say, oh my gosh, I saw that your daughter just graduated.
Right.
Or your son had
so you just took a trip to, Ecuador. That was great.
Because you saw, but just because you didn't respond doesn't mean you didn't see it.
Right.
And so on LinkedIn, you might get somebody saying, oh yeah, I've seen that every Monday you post an industry article. Great information. But they might have never, ever responded. And so I tell people, don't get so caught up in counting the likes, the comments, the whatever. Really, just because you're not getting interaction doesn't mean you're not having an effect.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I've noticed a strange phenomenon over the last 6 months. My lower liked, commented posts often result in higher amount of direct messages.
Right.
So, I mean, especially in my world, the job search world, like executives aren't commenting on my posts.
Right, because they don't want, because that shows up when somebody looks at their profile.
Executive resume writer post, right? And some people, it's fine, right? Because they have a consistent brand. So posting on LinkedIn doesn't mean they're looking, right? So that's the other thing. When you post consistently or you do things consistently or you promote your company, then people don't think you're looking because you're just always there. But not everyone has the time or the ability to do it, and that's fine. So as a result, they're not posting on they're not commenting or liking. They will DM me going, that really resonated with me, can we have a chat? Which is ultimately the goal of all this.
Yeah, because you've taken that next step in the relationship.
Yeah, the goal is to go to this event online, right, in the form of LinkedIn, and now get conversations to happen offline. That's the goal of all this. I'm not interested in collecting likes. I mean, I see them as a means to an end. The end being just have a conversation and see how we can help each other, or how I can help you or how you can help me.
Right.
And that's ultimately, I think, if people go about LinkedIn, to kind of get back to your original question, if they go about LinkedIn as a tool to meet people and keep their life nourished, it's not just about the job search. Right. It's not just about getting business. And then it becomes easier to do. And it's less emotional from like the highs and lows of, getting likes or not getting likes or getting calls or not getting calls. Like you're just learning and discovering and being curious. And it just becomes a little bit more fun to do, and, some people absolutely love it. Some people are doing it as a means to an end. And if they had no need to do it, they wouldn't do it. And and that's fine, but at least that's okay. But at least do it. At least try to make it fun. Right. And I think with anything, when you have to do it, it's typically not fun.
Right. Yeah. Like I always go back to the old, I think it was Dunkin' Donuts or somebody commercial with, showing the little old, now this is showing my age, showing the little old dude getting out of bed every day. Have to make the donuts.
Exactly.
Have to make the donuts.
Right.
And you can tell he hates going to make the donuts.
Right.
Especially because it's like 2:00 in the morning. Right.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, when you're thinking, have to make a post.
Right.
Then it's not fun.
Hard to make the post. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I subscribed to one of the big marketing name, we won't give his name out there, but one of those people that, sells the books, does all of those things. And so he had a blog and I subscribed to it. And he had said, I will send a blog post every single day. Now he started out with the best of intentions and trickled down to 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah.
And so, of course, what happened was everybody stopped reading, unsubscribed, all of those things. And if he had instead said, I will communicate when there's something important to communicate.
Right.
We would have all waited eagerly
Yeah.
for his information.
No, it's true. I mean, it's hard. I mean, like I talked earlier, God bless you. You've been doing this for 10 years, right? I mean, it's a commitment, and you got to find different ways of getting inspired. You got to find different ways of getting muses to help you, and keep it interesting, and all that type of stuff. So, and I think that's why, by approaching it, and I love your approach, like, I get to talk to great people, I get to talk to fun people. When you're taking it that way, as you're being curious and learning about people, and not trying to make every meeting an accomplished, an agenda that got
I check that box.
Yeah. Then, like, it does become more fun, because there's less expectation around it, and you can see where it goes.
Right.
And I think that's the key, to, again, get back to your original question of, like, I haven't needed this. It's like, well, okay, great. That's great.
That's fantastic that you haven't needed it.
But one, you may have missed out on a few things by not having it that would have made life better. And two, maybe just you could have helped somebody else by being on it, right? Which would make you more fulfilled by helping somebody else. And two, odds are, because you're simply a human being, and things change on human beings, you might need it. So just build it a little bit before you need it, and then make it fun in the process. So that's kind of like what I try to aspire to.
Right. Yeah. And it is about, as you said several times, that mindset. And there were a couple more things in your book. And your book is not just about LinkedIn. It's about, the getting that better job. Might not be a perfect job, but and right. A couple of the things that you talk about are doing the gratitude, whether it's a list, whether it's, all those things. And then other things like exercise. I mean, we get so focused on that work, and that work might be getting a job. I mean, that might be what your job is getting a job.
Right.
But, we forget to be grateful. We forget that, oh my gosh, our brain is going to function better when we get exercise. All of those very things.
Right, and I'm by no means no fitness pro. Like, this is the
I
so I'm not a fitness pro in saying that. But no, I mean, I think, and look, there's a lot of good work being done by a lot of people to make sure that employers are doing better for employees at every level in organizations now. And I think all of that work is amazing and needed and way overdue.
Right.
But the key is, even if companies are posting salaries and being transparent and giving you flexible work hours and, upping the training and doing all of these things that they maybe should have been doing all along, the bottom line is none of that's going to make you happy.
Right.
We don't take accountability for ourselves, and we learn how to set boundaries, and we learn how to dig our wells before we need them. We cannot put our futures in the hands of someone else, even if they are now a more progressive employer, right? So we have to still take responsibility for ourselves to be, someone who knows what we want, being okay with when we don't, that it will come, and, doing the work to take care of our bodies, to do the work we need to take care of our mental health, using the resources available to us. And again, doesn't mean everybody on the outside can't do better, but at some point we need to take accountability, and that's and it's about being prepared, right? So we can't put all the eggs in someone else's basket to expect to be taken care of.
Right.
Just I've never been a believer in that. And, as much as I'm, all about taking care of people, I ultimately have to take care of myself, and then know when to ask for help when I need it. Right. But so this isn't, it's just, there's a personal responsibility aspect of things in addition to employers taking better care of employees, that's a whole nother discussion. Right. But it's a combination of the two. And, part of the mindset is, you mentioned a perfect job, and I know we're coming close on the time here. There's no such thing as a perfect job, right?
Even if you own your business.
Oh my God, right? There's no such thing, right? So, I mean, I even say take responsibility for finding out the negatives about a particular company. Every company has negatives, even those on the best places to work for. I think one of the keys to happiness is to make sure you are okay and can tolerate the negatives of that company, because they give you flexible hours and they do all the things and they have the greatest benefits and they're, doing all the things you need them to do, but they have a negative that you're just like, hard no.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to be miserable there, or it won't work out long term, maybe, so, and definitely don't take a job only for the great money, right? Because that novelty will wear off in about 3-4 months. So that's where we can take some responsibility and not just say, well, this company is responsible for making me happy. Like we have to do the work on ourselves to make sure that this company, to the best of our ability, appears to be a good match for us.
Right.
And then, and that company needs to be transparent about what they need for someone to be happy at that employer. So, but it's like every relationship, it's a two-way street and one side can't do all the work. So that's, again, part of the mindset is taking accountability and responsibility for our own happiness.
Right. And I think that's especially important for business owners.
Business owners, too.
We get so caught up in our business is our entity, or not our entity, our business is everything.
It's everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if something happens to that, whether it fails, you can't do it anymore, maybe many, one of the things that was hit hardest during the pandemic were the professional speakers, who all of a sudden had nowhere to go to speak. First of all, they couldn't get there. And
nobody's coming.
and nobody was coming, and they weren't even having, and so if your identity is so tied up in your business that if it stops, there's a serious problem.
Yeah, your ego is going to get a little rocked.
Yeah. So, well, oh my gosh, Lisa, we need to do this again because we just kind of scratched the surface. And I still have notes.
So many things. You're such a great interviewer.
It's so much fun. Like I said, I get to talk to some of the coolest people in the world. But tell us, more about the services that you provide and then how people can connect with you.
So the best way to connect with me is either, follow me on LinkedIn, or you can sign up for I do a daily email. I've been doing it for a number of years. You can get dailycareertips.com. And that's, just some ways you can peruse information, see what I like to post about and see if it applies to you. If you'd like to explore hiring us for executive level resume and job landing tactic training, you can go to chameleonresumes.com and explore services there. And then if you're a course taker, a book reader, you're a DIYer, and you just want some excellent resources to help you land the job on your own, go to joblandingacademy.com. That's where I have the books I've written, the videos I've created, and the resume templates that I've designed that can help you do that faster.
I love it. And let's be honest, your service is not inexpensive, and that's because of the level of people you're working with. But there's so many people who can benefit from your books, from your other resources. And so I encourage folks to go and check those out.
That's why I have the free stuff at, getdailycareertips.com and the low cost stuff at joblandingacademy.com. I'm a first generation college graduate. I come from a working class family. I had a dad who struggled with landing, underemployed dad who was really smart, but always underemployed. And I know, he would never, as a postal worker, never be able to afford what I charge for services, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't have had help.
Right.
He
could read your book. He could read your blogs, all of those things.
I'm a huge advocate of having things available for everyone at every level. Because I don't think people should be shut out from these types of resources. So, that's why I have it all.
Great. I love it. And we talked about the book, The Job Landing Mindset, and it really is great information no matter where you are, and we've been talking about the fact that you need to be prepared, have your options open, all of those various things. And so I've been having a great conversation with Lisa Rangel. Do you have any final thoughts to leave everyone with?
I think you summed it up. Just be prepared. It's really what it's all about, right? Especially with what may be coming down the line in the next year or two. Some say a recession, some not saying a recession. I say be prepared as if one's coming. And if it doesn't, you're all the better for it. So, the key is just be ready and not be caught up in the economic swings that happen. So.
Great. I love it. And what I'm thinking about having you back on is to really talk about the very specifics, We talked about in general the toolbox. Okay, what do we need to have? Not just, a current picture, all of those things. And so I look forward to chatting with you
That
again.
would be awesome. I would absolutely love that. I appreciate you considering it. Thank
Cool.
you.
I love it. Well, I am Deb Creer, and until the next time that we chat, I've been talking with Lisa Rangel. And until then, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.